Hello there, good to see you and thank you for clicking. Now on this video we're going to talk about budgeting your 50,000. And guess what? It's not only budgeting but as well investing if you live in Nairobi. And guess what? If you don't live in Nairobi, you live in any other town in Kenya, still a good video for you because you can grab one or two things on how you can be able to budget your money as well investing. All right? Because a lot of people tend to think like, hey, you know what, Joseph, must I earn a lot of money for me to be able to budget it and as well investing it? Guess what? I'm breaking that myth and stereotype and take you step by step on how you're supposed to budget your money. As you can see, I've outlined everything for you and made it easier for you. All what I need to do right now is to explain for you bit by bit on how you're supposed to go about it. And guess what? I always post a video each and every day. So if you love kind of my videos, guess what? If you don't want to miss any good of my videos in future, do this. It doesn't cost you anything and it is free and fast. Down below there on your right, there is a button written subscribe. Hit that magical button and like this video, turn that notification bell, and by only doing exactly that, YouTube will notify you that Good Joseph has uploaded a new good video. All right, so let's get into today's business. Now, there you are. You are employed, then first of all, consider yourself lucky because a lot of people do not have a job. There you are, appreciate that what you're earning. And for today, we are talking about your 50,000. Now, how do you go about it? Now, this amount of money at the end of the day is expected to cater for all your needs out there. Say you're married or you're not married, you have dreams and visions and those kind of things. All right, so let's move step by step. All right, the very first thing that actually comes on our list is about rent. All right, because I know at the end of the day you're like, hey Joseph, say anything else but don't touch our rent, because the thing that keeps people on toes. And the very first thing is our rent. You have to pay rent. Of course, you have to live somewhere. Rent falls under what we call the must-have things. These are the things that you cannot negotiate with. They are the things that you need to have them. You must have them at the end of the day. So our first of all thing is our rent, and I've dedicated 13,500. Pretty sure with this amount of money, yes, doesn't give you like the high-end places like of the Kileleshwa, Kilimani, or maybe sometimes South Sea or Sambi or something of sort, but at least you can get yourself a decent place whereby you can be able to live in a comfortable life with one bedroom and such kind of a thing, and life will be good. Because at the end of the day, of course, let's agree on this, we have to consider the security of our life and as well our kids if you're employed, or rather if you have married and you have your family out there. So 13,500 goes towards our rent. How did I come up with this figure? There's one thing that you're supposed to understand when it comes to you paying rent using your money that you're earning as your salary. First of all, there is a law that usually apply that is called, you're not supposed to pay over 30% of your total salary towards you paying your rent. What exactly does it mean? Say, take a case scenario of our 50,000 at the end of the month. So the 30% of our 50,000 is actually 15,000. If you can manage to live below 30% of that amount of money, then that's an amazing thing. And that's how I did come up with this amount of money. What exactly do I mean? Because the point is not just writing figures here, it's to explain to you how did I arrive to these specific figures. How I arrived to this specific figure is that you're not supposed to pay over 30% of your total amount of money as your salary towards paying your rent. What exactly does it mean? The moment you realize that your rent is surpassing 15,000 and you're actually earning a 50,000 salary at the end of the month, then something is not really okay. 13,000, so should be 15,000. But if you can be able to actually go ahead and reduce that a little bit to 13,500, just like I did, that's an amazing thing. Now we move to the next level. It's about transport. Of course, this is a thing that you have to understand that it has to be there as far as you're living in Nairobi. All right, the transport thing is actually the thing that really cost a lot of money. And with me coming up with this figure of 4,500, I've actually budgeted 150 shillings at the end of the day. But I stand corrected. At this particular point, this figure tends to actually can go down or can go up, depends on where and how you usually pick your time in terms of time, or rather pick your matatu in terms of your time. In most cases goes like for 200, that means 100 bob to and fro at the evening. So that can accumulate up to 6,000 at the end of the month. But for this, I take an average case of 150 shillings, probably like 80 to and 70 from, and that way you can be able to come up with this figure of 4,500 at the end of the month, right? So, but if it goes to up to 60,000, 6,000 at the end of the month, we are still covered. Don't worry, stick around, right? We go to the next point about the water and electricity. I've actually started with the most sensitive things because I know these are the things that usually cost a lot of money in such places. Now, the electricity and the water goes for 1,000 1000 bob. You pay your tokens and you pay your water at the end of the day. Again, I stand corrected. Depends on how you actually utilize your utilities, likes of the water and electricity. This figure is prone to go up or go down, but I've taken an average figure that you're supposed to actually be moving around it. 1000 bob. Yeah, I know a family that goes for 1300, others go for 1500 for only water and electricity. It all depends. If there is a shortage of water, sometimes you're forced to buy. Sometimes if you do not have that problem, then at the end of the day, you can have yourself a budget of around 500 Kenyan shillings. Then you can actually remit the other 500 towards paying your electricity. But again, it depends. If the schools have been closed, of course, children are at home, the lights are on, the TVs are on, the fridges and what have you, this figure is prone to actually go out there. The figures that are provided here are for the average family that are sensitive on how they are using their money. All right, so we move to the next level, that is food. Of course, now here we are, we have to eat, we have to sustain ourselves, we have to generate energy and all those kind of things. Remember, all the things that I've actually outlined here are actually necessities. They are things that you cannot be able to negotiate with. Now the food here usually goes to around 12,000. How did I come up with this figure? In most cases, I always tell people that figure that usually paying for your rent, food usually goes near that or slightly above that. Usually go kind of hand in hand with that amount of money. The same case applies to savings, because I'm pretty sure you can only see, you've already seen how much we are going for the saving. But anyway, we aren't yet there. So the 12,000 I've actually dedicated it towards you paying for your food. And I always advise this: avoid paying what we call the poverty tax. What exactly do I mean by poverty tax? Poverty tax simply means you going out there and buying things in small quantities. Like if you want sugar, you go buy your quarter, half. If you want some cooking oil, you get your quarter, you get your half, you get all your kind of things. If you need a cooking flour, a wheat flour, the maize flour and all those kind of things, you buy in small quantities. You're gonna pay what we call a poverty tax. I always tell people, do this. Make sure that once you get your salary, show up to a supermarket, show up to that place, show up to that cereal shop, do all the budgeting that is required, buy your rice, buy things in everything in large quantity, because in that way you're likely to get a subsidized figure in terms of the pricing. Then with that way you're able to go ahead and save quite a good amount of money at the end of the day. So 12,000 dedicated towards doing our budget for the sake of our survival mechanisms. All right, there we are. We move to the next level. Now on this, you're supposed to understand the next thing is school fees. This for the case of guys who are actually have children, because they are out there, you have to pay them for school fees and that kind of a thing. So you see, the magical thing about school fees happens usually after 3 months, but now we have to save it each and every month. So by the time we're clocking the 3rd month, we need to pay school fees, then we have our money. I've just put aside 4,000 Kenyan shillings. That accumulates to 12,000 in a period of 3 months. That one, I'm pretty sure, honestly speaking, you can pay a good school fees out there. I know it's not an amazing school. Of course, that doesn't get you into St. Andrew, Turi, or maybe Greenstead, or those international national schools, but you can get yourself a decent school where your kids are actually schooling. Okay, that's an amazing thing if you dedicate that amount of money out there. And I always tell people like this: make sure that amount of money that you're setting aside as your school fees, make sure that at least it resonates with the ability of you paying your pocket. Because I understand these people usually earn this amount of money. Most of them, you find them in corporates, like the finance, the corporate, the fintech, the finance and technology and all those kind of things. And I know there is a certain problem that usually affects them. And this problem is actually about financing their starters. And one thing that I'm supposed to understand, if you go ahead and do exactly this, you're going to get yourself into troubles. Meaning, avoid as much as you can to financing your starters. At the end of the day, stick towards you paying that what you know you can afford, even if you get fired, because you have a way how you can be able to maneuver and come out of that challenge or a problem or a situation that you are in. Hiya, let's go faster, because I don't want to make this video be a very long one. Some couple of minutes, you're able to go. Now the next one is about entertainment. Of course, I know you're looking forward to this. You need to have your entertainment. And when I say entertainment, I have involved issues to do with the clothing, going out there, 1, 2, 3, those kind of things. Of course, I've set aside 4,000. Yeah, I know there's some people here saying, hey, that's quite low for me. Yeah, I understand. It all depends on where you usually dine or dinner, who you hang around, where you drink, where you buy your clothing and all those kind of things. But we said one thing: if you want to create wealth, it all calls for dedication, it's called for discipline, it calls for sacrifice and all those kind of things. So I've set aside 4,000 Kenyan shillings at the end of the month for your entertainment purposes. All right, when I say entertainment as well, here there's issues to do with the internet and what have you fall into this place. But guess what? There is one magical thing that you're supposed to understand. But Before I share that, how about we just get the last one and then I can be able to talk about that. Now, the last one but not the least, the most important one, and I always advise, yeah, it's quite irony that I've actually written it at the down below here. I'm actually supposed to have it at the top there because you're supposed to save then consume rather than doing the vice versa. You're not supposed to save what has been left as surplus. You're supposed to save. And by the way, I really hate that term saving. I prefer it is storing, accumulating for the purposes of investing. Now, what I suggest is this 11,000 Kenyan shillings. I always say food. If you can see, there's magical things that's happening here. What you're paying as your rent, what you're paying as your food, and what you've saved is kind of the same amount of money revolves around. And that's what I always tell people. If I can afford to take 13,500 and give it to somebody for my rent, then why don't I accumulate the same amount of money and save it? Absolutely true. Because if I'm taking my 13,500 and paying for my rent, paying for somebody else, of course, for their investments. How about I take the same amount of money and put it for my savings for the sake of, starting a business in future or investing, right? So that's why I've come up with that particular figure. And guess what? Our 50,000 is done. We are left with nothing. Guess what? This is what I wanted to say previously. One thing that you're supposed to understand, all these figures that I've provided here, you can be able to squeeze them to adjust the actuality on the ground, all right? These are proposed figures. You can actually squeeze them, try to save one, two, or the other, because there's some realities in life, and eventuality can happen, some diseases, and God forbid, some black tax, maybe you can be called at home, something has just happened, antia memeza jembe, and all those kind of things. So you have to make sure that you can adjust all these figures so that at least you accumulate those eventualities with life. If you're an adult, you understand the most predictable thing about life is unpredictability. Simply, you cannot be able to predict what will show up tomorrow morning. Now, here we have talked about budgeting. Now, how about savings? Now, or rather investing. Now, this amount of money that you're getting at the end of the month as your savings, it cannot make you rich. Honestly speaking, that 11,000 is quite a low amount of money. And this is what I always tell people. When you would like to grow yourself into the next level, you can decide the 11,000, you can dedicate it towards paying a loan that have actually you are in the process of acquiring an asset. You can pick a land that you dedicate 11,000 at the end of the month to repay that specific asset. That's a good and amazing thing. You can buy a land. Number two, if you're in business, you can get a car that you can do Uber, you can do taxing, you can do something, you can do transport. You can dedicate the same amount of money, you acquire the car, and then you get the same amount of money as your loan repayment, and then you can get into business. Now you're diversifying your income, and actually you're increasing streams of income. The other way, you can be able to get into circles or the MMF. The circles are actually the very simple things that you should get started to if you are a beginner. Actually, I'm about to make that video. So on circles, you can be able to get started, save this amount of money, and at the end of the day, and of course, don't get yourself into a circle that you do not know people, because you'll be frustrated when you want to get a loan. So if you get this amount of money dedicated, you're not only entitled to shares, but as well to a fixed deposit, in terms of income and such kind of a thing. So you can get a loan, buy an asset, you can get a loan, buy what we call like a car, or maybe you can get a loan, build something or something of sort. You can you can get a loan, get into farming, get into daily farming, and those kind of things. All right. So that's how you grow yourself, and that's how you move to the next level. But the point is this: don't get enticed and feel like because I'm saving by default everything will be okay. The point is not saving. The point is accumulating this money, putting it into investment, so that at least in future you can be able to say, now here I am, I've progressed and I've made something for the sake of my life. All right, that is very simple. Sounds simple, by the way, because it is indeed when it comes to growing. And guess what? If you're the first time seeing me, my name is Joseph. Talk about money, investment, and anything related to that. If you would like to have a contact with me or a call with me, I've left my number on the description of this specific video. You can grab my number out there, or I've still left my email there. You can contact me. If you're looking about the financial discussion with me, I offer those services for a cup of coffee. I still have a booklet explaining on how you're supposed to budget your money. I still have other booklets about investment, like this of circles and MMF, treasury bills, treasury bonds, business ideas and plans. All of them are ready for only 280 Kenyan shillings. For now, it's a goodbye, and let's meet in the next one. And don't forget